Hi, Miss Avner. I am so glad to be part of this collaboration. This instructional coaching experience has been very positive, so thank you. I have a couple questions to follow up with what your lesson was, and I'll take some notes on that. In general, how do you think your lesson went? Did the students get the learning targets, and how do you know, that they were comprehending it all?
Well, I think my lesson went really well. I was very happy with the way it turned out. I believe the students actually hit the learning targets, and my evidence for that is at the very end of this unit we had to do an editorial. So with all the activities we did in class and the information, the research that they gathered on the Great Lakes, their editorials turned out based on the rubric really well.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's good. That's very good. Did you have any other work samples that helped you to establish that from your lesson to the editorials? Any other formative assessments that came in that supported that, or?
Well, I did also collaborate with our technology coach.
Okay.
And he helped me create a Neropod, and we used that a couple days in the classroom. So the kids, it was like immediate assessment because they got to answer the questions and it appeared on the board, and they just thought that was really cool. So 100% of the students participated in that. And so at the end, from reading the articles on the Neropod and all that stuff, they ended up gathering their information for their editorial.
Oh, fantastic.
And actually formulating their opinion on how they felt about the Great Lakes, if the Great Lakes had been cleaned up or if they still were as bad off as they were back in the 60s.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, collaboration is very powerful.
Right.
To what extent did the classroom procedures, student conduct, and physical space contribute or possibly hinder the learning in your classroom?
Well, I think it contributed to it because I had my classroom set up, since they had to take sides with the Great Lakes, we had it set up to where the doomers sat on one side that felt the Great Lakes were still in bad shape, to the boosters who were the ones that felt the Great Lakes were a great place to move to, businesses to come, to visitors, tourists. So we kind of had that, and then our own little classroom debate. So that kind of worked out, and just it was set up to where I could move freely around. And
I did definitely observe that during your lesson, that your classroom environment was very supportive of interaction. And we'll talk about that with specifics to domain 3 that you asked me. But I totally agree that you took complete command with the physical space and the environment, that it was a great place. So I do think that does make a difference. Did you depart from your plan in any way? Did you make any modifications during that lesson?
not so much during the lesson, just after I talked to our technology coach, I took some of just your basic traditional activities that we would have done in class, and he helped me put it in that Neropod. So kind of a change from previous years of teaching, but not like immediate.
Okay.
I didn't, so.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. You're kind of following the needs of the kids and
Right.
using the technology to support. That's
Right.
fantastic. If you have had an opportunity to do this lesson again, what would you do differently, if anything, and why?
I think some of the things were, I know like when you came in and observed, definitely using my smartboard to actually, when we went over the answers to some of the questions, to actually show the students how they came up with the answer. I think
Okay.
they understood, but then there was some in the class that didn't, so I think I should have actually used my smartboard as we went over the answers to what you observed.
Right, and we kind of talked about that a little bit
Right.
before. Absolutely, but it's a very powerful tool to reflect on things that we've done, and I feel so comfortable being able to do that with you, and appreciated you in my class as well. Last question I'll ask is, what do you see as the next step for professional growth in addressing the needs that you might have in your classroom and concerns?
Well, I think just this experience from this class, since we don't really have the instructional coaching in our building, that I really enjoyed collaborating with you and actually sitting down and sharing our ideas, that I would like that to continue, whether it's in our building or not, that relationship that we're building with one another to actually continue. And since we can collaborate based on your domain being in the arts and humanities and mine social studies, we definitely in future actually can look at those units and actually work together on it, since we see the students at, all of us have the same students. So.
I totally agree. What we've been learning in our class about teachers having a voice, and I know our TEL survey, many of the teachers, in our building don't feel that sense of voice, and that holds back professional development. And I think the development of this collaboration between you and I in our classes and teaching common students, I do think that it does make a difference, and it is a relief to know that you can talk and improve no matter what initiative that our administration or district might have. So I think that's fantastic.
And it does bring us out of our comfort zone.
Absolutely. You were mentioning, specifically you asked me to look for something in Domain 3, which was seeing if your curriculum was lining up with your activities. And definitely, this is just almost a textbook example. The learning activities were designed to engage students. I saw all of the evidence I saw that there was 100% participation in your students. They were, you physically took your desk and put them in pairs, and you predetermined those pairs based on your student population, the class composition, and they were talking and they were using visuals and they were collaborating with one another. It was 100% collaboration among the children, the students. I thought it was fantastic. And that's what I saw, and that's the evidence that I saw. The pacing was good as well. All the students were supported when they were using their maps to look at things. They knew exactly where to go physically in the classroom to get those rulers, and you could see that movement. There were established procedures. You were going around and with every single student pair, and you were assisting them continuously, which was fantastic. I was just amazed at the work that the sixth graders they were really staying on task. The pace of the lesson as well here under Domain 3 was very much exemplary because you gave times, you gave expectations, you were clear with it, and you stayed to that. So the students were they were paced very well in expecting when to render answers and when to be ready for class discussion. I appreciated seeing that. Also, in your classroom environment or Domain 2, which I've been referring to as well, even though you asked me to see if those are aligning, those activities are very engaging for the students, but your physical classroom also supported that learning. And so under Domain 3, that was extremely, it just made everything work well. And the arrangement of the seats. And the only thing that I would change or adjust, it's something that I do in my classroom, is I have a document camera, and I can place some of these activity sheets under my document camera, which projects to the smartboard, and it sort of guides a group discussion later. And I know that you don't have a document camera, but perhaps if like you were talking about, and I think we talked about earlier, that the only thing that could possibly enhance that student engagement was at the end of the lesson being able to project that graphic visual aid on the board, and then having different groups go around and explain why and be able to teach others. So it's sort of like supporting those who are weak and strong and demonstrating that. So based on what I saw. So I do appreciate your invitation in the classroom, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I saw the same students working so hard and staying on task based on your planning and your commanding that physical environment, and it was very refreshing. So I learned so much from it too. So I hope this specific evidence kind of helps you from that, and I also look forward to future collaboration times. Yeah. Any questions or anything?
No, but just thank you, and I'm looking forward to that collaboration also.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.